and welcome to Kings Point Spotlight. I'm Lieutenant Tyrone Broxton, and today I have the pleasure of being joined in the Dean and Barbara White Admission Center with Lieutenant Colonel Ossen D'Haiti. Lieutenant Colonel D'Haiti is a 1990 graduate of the United States Merchant Marine Academy, where he majored in marine engineering. Sir, thank you so very much for joining us here today on Kings Point Spotlight.
My pleasure.
Now, first and foremost, where are you from and what high school did you attend?
I'm from Houston, Texas, and I attended the Straight Jesuit College Preparatory.
Okay. How did you learn about Kings Point, and why did you decide to accept your appointment here?
I learned about Kings Point through my congressmen and senators who, as I was going through the process of applying for a nomination, informed me of the 5 service academies as opposed to the most commonly known 3. Why I attended Kings Point was a matter of both it fit my vision of where I wanted to go. I felt Kings Point gave me the most options, and I think what the forcing function was really meeting some alumni in my local area that kind of convinced me it was a place for me.
Now, Houston has a very large, one of the largest ports in the country. You had a chance to meet. What did the alumni have to say about why this is, as is coined, the America's best kept secret?
It is. I think it was more an idea of what the possibilities could be. I met 3 very prominent persons in that local community who had gone to Kings Point and who had all 3 been doing varied things. One was director of the Port of Houston, another was a very successful lawyer, a third ran a shipping company, mainly trucking. So for me, again, that was part of the options piece, and I had aspirations as well of going to the military. So it was just one of those things that Kings Point afforded the most ability, not just to get a great education, which you expect from the service academies, but what do you do with it going forward? And then that appealed to me.
Yeah. Now, at the Merchant Marine Academy, as many people know, you have the option of working in the maritime industry to fulfill your obligation and being a reservist in the Navy, and you also have the option of choosing whatever branch of active duty service that you aspire to. You are a member, a longtime member now, of the United States Marine Corps. What was it about the Marine Corps that made you say, this is for me?
I think it came down to one question. For me, it was, could I measure up? I had the exposure to the Marine Corps relatively early in my upbringing. I think I didn't have anyone in my family who was a Marine. However, I had an experience with the Marine Corps in the summer after my 8th grade through a summer camp that I attended. And that kind of was the inception of my desire to be a Marine, and it simply came down to could I do it, and then I think that one question drove me internally until I did try to see if I could, and I did.
Now, there's a Marine Corps option program as referred to here now. I know back in when you were a student here, it was referred to, I think the name was a little different. Nonetheless, talk a little bit about that experience. I know you were very involved with that program here, and how that leads you to becoming a commissioned officer in the United States Marine Corps. What is it? How does that program, or the other programs for that matter, whether it be you're interested in the Army Ops program, Coast Guard Ops, whatever the case, how do they steer you to active duty service when this school's curriculum is catered to maritime type operations?
Sure. I mean, I think there are a number of procedural aspects of applying for and being prepared for military service, particularly in the Marine Corps. And I think here at Kings Point, we had a Marine officer instructor on staff who I think among his other duties was to cater to and prepare and groom, if you will, that portion of the population that was interested in the Marine Corps. And so through those programs, it was called the Bulldog program, but it was part of the Marine Option program. We did those things that helped familiarize us with the way the Marine Corps did things and what we would most likely expect going through officer candidate school. And I felt that well prepared me for that experience.
Now, not only did you have the Bulldog program, Marine Option program here as well, but you also were mentored by a gentleman here. How did that help you, and even more so influence you, a Marine as well, to say this is exactly what I would like to do?
I mean, I think it's a personal experience, but for me it was more, it was beyond the lore, if you will, of wanting to be a Marine. It was, I saw it as a tremendous challenge, and I think individuals here, formally and informally, just kept that fire going for me. I think it was always something that I aspired to, but never could quite see the way there. But I stuck with it, and along the way, when the opportunity came, I was prepared, and part of that preparation was both physical and mental. I guess more than just those two, spiritual, etc. But it was one of those things that at the right time, I knew I had to try, and it was one of those things for me personally that was a test of my transformation, if you will, into what I hope I could be.
Okay. Many decorations, accommodations, vast on experience in terms of your career, 21 years now. What is your current role and duties in the Marine Corps?
I currently serve as the Marine Military Assistant to the Director of Net Assessment in the Office of the Secretary of Defense. In that capacity, I offer my best military opinion to the Director on myriad issues that we cover. It's largely research, a lot of reading, writing, but ultimately I am part of a cadre of 5 military assistants, one from each service, and we are there to provide the Director with our best military experience from our vantage points, affecting the issues that the office researches and advises.
Okay. And what are some of your other experiences that you've had?
Prior to this assignment, I worked at Headquarters of Marine Corps as a strategic analyst for the Commandant. Similar role. My other staff tour was working for the Secretary of the Navy, Gordon England, in his second tour in the building. Beyond that, all my time in the Marine Corps has been flying Harriers as a attack pilot, and that is my main occupational specialty.
Okay. Now, speaking of that, you've flown over 150 combat missions, most recently Operation Iraqi Freedom. What type of aircraft? You just mentioned Harriers. What goes into your training? What is the mindset of being a pilot?
Wow, it's not one thing, obviously. I think it's certainly it is the vocation of wanting to perform that mission with as little variance from the ideal as possible. I think everything we do to be on time, to be on target, to be within a very tightly monitored and scrutinized window of operation, because what we do is support the grunt on the ground. Everything the Marine Corps does is to support the infantry, and lives are at stake oftentimes, and so in that, in seeking to perform that duty, which we must, we have to do it with as much precision and as much fervor as we can to get that job done.
Okay. A lot of people kind of don't understand how one can come to an institution that primarily trains you to sail on the water or become an engineer, as to how you can walk out with a vast assortment in many instances of flight spot opportunities, obviously if you meet the criteria. How were you able to accomplish such a feat directly out of Kings Point 1990?
I was interested in the Marine Option Program, and I then took the AQT-FAR. Based on my score on that examination, I was then offered an aviation contract, which again I thought about whether or not if it was what I needed to do, and ultimately I took that opportunity.
Okay, sounds good. Like most Kings Pointers, you did not stop with your bachelor's degree. Went on and continued your education, graduated with honors from the Amphibious Warfare School, graduated with distinction from the Naval War College. Can you share with us why you should continue your education? Many people think, you're at the creme de la creme of education, coming from a service academy or maybe even coming from an Ivy League school. Why should a graduate, continue their education? And amongst many of your classmates, did they also continue and maybe pursue their master's degrees and doctorates?
Sure. I mean, I think it's that one is fairly simple. It's ultimately seeking self-improvement. I mean, I think I've taken every opportunity I was presented with to partake in professional military education. Some of them have been degree yielding, some of them have not. But I mean, I think Kings Point prepared me well in the sense that seeking those opportunities was never. I didn't see them as obstacles. I left here fairly confidently that I could handle those kinds of things. I developed great study habits here. I was able to learn very well how to compartmentalize different aspects of my professional career. And so I think ultimately seeking postgraduate degrees was just part and parcel of my journey, and I still seek them today. It's a matter of trying to fit them into one's schedule and the demands of operationally being in the Marine Corps and the operational demands of being a Marine. But I've been fortunate to have gone to a lot of resident schools, and some that are primarily available really just in the local national capital region. So as to the second part of the question, I think many of my peers have done so as well. I can think of a handful who have gone on to seek postgraduate degrees, and it's kind of expected. You expect it of yourself, and in the competitive world, I think those are things, the more you can learn, the more you can arm yourself with the tools so that when opportunity does present itself, you can take that opportunity. I think the better off you'll be.
Absolutely. Now, in reference to your engineering degree, you came here, majored in engineering. How has that related to your career, and has it come full circle? Have you really been able to utilize much of what you've learned at the academy, if not necessarily from engineering per se, from a leadership standpoint?
Sure. That goes without saying, the leadership aspect, the study habits, the applying oneself. But I think there's a confidence that you'll find when you leave Kings Point. There are very few academic environments that are truly challenging because of the workload and the level of academic stress that one undergoes here. So you're well prepared when you leave here. As far as engineering, it has helped generally. I have a very well-rounded education in engineering and things engineering, well beyond my average counterpart. As far as, I mean, I've met civil engineers who know civil engineering. I've met double E's who know double E, but we get a very well-rounded aspect in everything that the floating city needs to operate, and so that's been very, very, very good. As far as my own profession as a pilot, the application for engineering, thermodynamics, and all those things, they weren't just primers, they were complete and thorough educations in those competencies. So when I came across them again later in my Marine Corps career, it was much more easily consumed than if it was going to be for the first time.
Okay. You're still quite active and letting promising youth know about the opportunity that exists here at the Merchant Marine Academy. What was your experience like personally as a midshipman here?
As a midshipman, I tried to partake in all that the Academy could offer. Time is really the currency here at the Academy. You've got to be able to manage your time well. You've got to understand what's important, when it's important, what you put off and what you don't. And so, I mean, I think I try to, when I talk to prospective candidates for Kings Point, once they're interested and I've got them talking to the right people, I continue to keep in touch and see how they're doing, sometimes if not directly through their families. But I think the skills you learn here, because of the the condensed and really completely packed curriculum, doing a 4-year degree in 3 in essence, with the C year that's added, which is a bonus in my mind. But I think you learn very quickly how to compartmentalize, how to prioritize, how to you know, get to the heart of something and pull out what it is you need to know, and what's, you know, what's circumstantial and what's primary.
C year, one of the most unique components of this institution, you know, going out and traveling the world for approximately a year, working in your case as a engineer in the making. Where were some of the ships that you worked aboard and some of the places you traveled to?
I had a pretty well-rounded experience. I was on 2 container vessels and 2 tankers. I was fortunate enough on my first ship to get to the Mediterranean. Alexandria, Egypt was our first stop, 15 days after we shoved off from New Orleans. From there we hit a number of ports in the Med, to include Haifa, Israel, Piraeus, Greece, Naples, Italy, Leghorn, Italy, and on along the Med there. My second vessel, which was another container ship, took me to northern Atlantic, Germany, Holland, England. My third ship during my the second half of my sea year went down to the Virgin Islands, and my last ship was a coastal Gulf of Mexico ship that basically hopscotched back from New Orleans to Florida. So again, half the time on containers, half the time on tankers. Going back on 24, 25 years here, it was a very well-rounded experience, I think, as far as the ship systems and how they operated and the different styles of crews and the things that you learn about those that crewed those ships and where they were from and the kinds of things they did. And so you can't buy training or experiences like that. Mm-hmm. And it is a unique thing about Kings Point, but I think it is one of the most yielding aspects of the experience here is what I learned during those sea years, and incidentally some of those countries I've been back to. Mm-hmm. As a Marine. So
okay, increasing diversity, not only a pressing matter at service academies across the board, Merchant Marine Academy no exception to that, also in the Marine Corps, the military as a whole. San Diego Union Tribune rather noted recently in an article the increased intensity for diversity within the Marine Corps, specifically amongst the officer ranks. Being an African American with the rank of lieutenant colonel, why is it important for our military and service academies to be diverse from the top down?
Okay. First, I'll say I don't speak for the Marine Corps in this interview. I'll speak for myself. I mean, I think it's the strength of our nation is based on our diversity. I think it's very important that we have a broad and varied set of experiences and opportunities. I think there are things that many of us bring to the solution that otherwise we might not be privy to. So the opportunities, I think, exist. They need to for African Americans need to be more prevalent. I think institutions that consider this seriously are looking for ways to do that. But ultimately, I think our strength, not only as a nation but as institutions, is really based on the people of those institutions and a very varied and diverse set of the most precious resource, which is the people, is an absolute must and a benefit to what we do.
Very involved at the academy and involved in a number of activities, including athletics. What were some of the things that you did recreationally, activity-wise, in terms of clubs, and even from a regimental standpoint?
With the sports aspect, I played football here my freshman and sophomore year. I threw the discus and the shot put in the track and field team. I also sailed as a power squadron person. Midshipman. I was also involved with the Ethnic Culture Club at the time, I think it was called. Um, a number of things to include the budding professional aspects of the academy, such as I think there was a student SNAME type of a organization here as well. So I mean, all those things I think rounded my experience, and I tried to have as much diversity in what I was exposed to here at Kings Point. I'm sure there's a handful of activities that I've forgotten about, but I'll flip through my yearbook later, and they're all listed there, to include being involved with the Marine Option Program and things of that nature. So there's a lot going on here, and I'm sure there may be even more things here at the Academy nowadays, but it's very important, I think, to partake of all of those as much as you can. When we all applied to Kings Point, one of the criteria was that they were looking for well-rounded personnel, and that shouldn't stop once you get here. Once you get here, your interests should continue, and you should try to create balance as much as you can in what you do, because you know, all of those things help you focus on what's important.
Alumni network. You mentioned how a few individuals helped usher you towards the academy. Now that you are an alum, been so for a while now, what is that network like once you become an official part of that fraternity?
I think it's a great thing. For me, of course, with large periods of time gone from home at times, there are gaps. However, when I do get back, when I am back from a deployment and those kinds of things, earlier in my career, it was a matter of tapping into alumni that I personally knew. Today, with the onset of social media, it comes to you. So I think it's very easily done. There are a number of networks out there that are organized by state or by activity. Just in the National Capital Region in Washington, D.C., there are a couple networks, Kings Point alumni networks, that involve alumni as well as Society of Naval Engineers, Society of Naval Architects and Marine Engineers. So I think it's very important to stay plugged in. I think the networking aspect is one of the strengths of Kings Point being a great place to come from. Kings Pointers seek other Kings Pointers. Kings Pointers try to mentor other Kings Pointers. And I think it is one of the great things about the school. And like I said, I've never seen it as prevalent as it is now with the social media aspects of it.
We're entering the recruitment season, and I'll be hitting the road shortly. Often I'll meet a young man or a young woman who will say, I want to become an officer, or may just say, I want to be in the service. I want to go active duty. That's my aspiration. That's my desire. Maybe sometimes in some instances the kids don't necessarily understand the importance of potentially going first through the college, or, going through that experience to become an officer. What do you say to the youth who aspire to serve this country active duty, and maybe not make that connection as to the importance of trying to either attend a service academy, a military college, or even a regular civilian school and going through an ROTC program?
Mm-hmm. My personal opinion on service is that it is a very important thing. It's a transformational thing, I think, not just for the individual, but for the nation to which that benefits from that service. And so I do talk to youth about that, and I don't constrain that discussion to just the military aspects. The Peace Corps, there are varied opportunities for youth to serve, and I think that's very, very important. Even with my own children, I stress that. So I think there has to be a connection to giving back to a society, even if it's local, with volunteerism. And it starts with volunteerism, I think, oftentimes. And there are local organizations that where that can be nurtured. But ultimately, I think our strength, the strength of our nation, is a realization of its uniqueness, and that uniqueness is largely based on the efforts and the input and the contributions of many. And so, based on that, I mean, I would say if you can get a young man or woman to understand that their singular contribution in the aggregate is what forms much of the goodwill of this nation. I think if that clicks, then I think that's something that sticks with them forever.
Obviously, very full of wisdom. What advice would you give not only current midshipmen, but also prospective midshipmen about pressing through the tough times, the toils and the tribulation, from applying to the academy to being accepted, accepting the appointment, and then going through the freshman year and plebe year and going out to sea and license exam and all of that? What do you say as an alum to those individuals?
Don't lose your focus. Don't lose sight of your goal. It's about goals. We set goals and we try to achieve them. Put another way, keep the main thing the main thing. It's something that I've always focused on, and there are times when it gets very foggy and there are distractions. There will always be distractions. But if you're able to focus daily on what it is you're trying to accomplish, of course that first requires you to figure out what you're trying to accomplish. I think that goes a long way. I think most people can work their way towards a goal. It's a matter of not losing sight. It's a matter of not being too distracted. It's a matter of fine-tuning what that end state might be. So the advice I would give is to don't lose the focus, stick with it, and the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing.
That's great. Sir, my absolute pleasure.
Okay, no sweat.
Lieutenant
Thank
Colonel
you
Ossen
for the
D'Haiti,
opportunity.
thanks for joining us here today on Kings Point Spotlight.
Sure.
And that concludes this edition of Kings Point Spotlight. For all of us in admissions, I'm Lieutenant Tyrone Broxton. Until next time, acting on verba, and go Mariners.